Hello everyone. In this video, I'm going to be going over a new IST setup that I've come up with for all Kilton metals. And this has a new setup that uses a Broken Master sword that lets you push food effects to the right instead of having to dupe 60 foods in order to achieve the same effect. So we're able to get a bow with modifiers in a lot less reloads. So you'll see here I've started with a bingo file, so I finished plateau but not picked up any items. This is just to make this example a little bit faster. So I'm going to go around plateau now, collect everything we need, and show you where to get it. So first, just as normal, we're gonna get the traveler's bow here, and then get the bundle of arrows. Then we're going to run over here so I can wind bomb and grab the pot lid and Boko spear. While this setup is intended for all Kilton metals, you can also use it for things like all shrines or any category that needs a modified weapon pretty quickly. So I'm gonna grab a couple of Hylian shrooms here. Also grabbing some peppers, though they're not necessarily needed. I'm just gonna grab them so I have something to heal with while I wind bomb around. Okay, let's try that again. So important thing here, you're gonna want to come over to this bomb arrow chest before you go to stasis on plateau. Normally you would just get the bomb arrows behind Cryonis that you get from having DLC installed. But with this new setup, you don't want to have DLC installed, and you'll see why in just a little bit. Okay, so this next thing that I'm getting isn't necessarily required, but I think it's probably the best thing to grab for fighting Thunderblight, because you will need a two-handed weapon to break his shield earlier in the fight. So we're going to go over here and grab the woodcutter's axe. I forgot to do this earlier, so I'm just going to go ahead and do this now. Going through plateau, normally you will damage your Boko spear, just from various things like doing the stasis launch up to the BLSS spot for Cryonis. So I'm going to go ahead and get this badly damaged because it will be useful for something we're doing later. I'm going to grab the flint down here. And we're going to get the last thing we need on plateau, which is Hyrule Herbs. Drop down here. We only need 2 of these, but I'm going to go ahead and grab all of them for wind bombing. So now that we have everything we need from plateau, we can move on. So just to go over what I picked up: pot lid, traveler's bow, damaged Boko spear, and the woodcutter's axe. I'm also just going to go ahead and get rid of some of these arrows. For the setup, you want to reduce your arrow count down to 1 for both of these, which makes them easier to get rid of. Okay, so finished plateau, we have all these items, and now we're going to BLSS over to Satori Mountain. This route still is not set in stone. There's still people There's still being discussion about where it's best to go and like what we really need out of a bow or what bow we should get. But for now, this is the least out of the way, going over here. And this is going to give us 2 Endura carrots, which we need for the meal that we're making for the corrupted bow. And this also gives us a Forest Dweller's bow, which has a decent durability and isn't too far out of the way. I think it's also got a faster fire rate, but I'm not entirely sure on that. So 2 Endura carrots here. I'm gonna get the one. I guess I'll get this one first. Normally I would go to the tree that's a little further up since I have more height, but that's fine. I just can run over here. Then we're gonna wind bomb north. And right behind this hill here, it's going to be our Forest Dweller's bow. I'm also going to pick up this acorn here. This is not required, but if you want to use a check item for when you're breaking the slots for IST, you're welcome to grab that or any other single item that you find around. We're gonna grab wood here. Re-equip shield. Now, without any more detour, we're gonna go straight to Korok Forest where we can do the whole setup. If this tree stump will let me. There we go. The first thing that we're going to do at Korok Forest, we're going to drop down on the Great Deku tree and grab the fairies that are up there. There's a particular way I've been grabbing them, which seems to be fairly good. These fairies are normally pretty bad because they do not want to come down if you're crouched down trying to grab them. They don't want to come down for you to grab them. But I think I found a way to get them that's fairly consistent. Something else I've considered on the way here is dropping down to Hyrule Castle to get an autosave there and maybe load back in to avoid having to wind bomb back over. But I haven't tested that in the sim yet, but that's potentially something that could save some time if it works out. Okay, so now we're here at the Great Deku tree, a little bit further. There we go. So now I'm going to re-equip my shield. It normally takes these fairies a little bit to load in. So I'll equip shield first and then equip axe, and usually by then they'll have loaded in. I'm going to spam A to grab this one first, and then grab this one. I can usually get them both consistently. Now we're going to drop down. We need one more shield for this setup. And also your pot lid is going to be damaged just going through plateau normally. So this is going to be the weapon we can use to corrupt what we need. So now we're going to get the weapon that makes all of this possible. So if you're unfamiliar with this glitch, I'm going to put this a little bit closer just in case. This lets us get the Master Sword early. I'm going to put the Master Sword in the middle between Link and the fire. And it says press A to pull now, but if I point the camera up, we get the prompt to sit. So I'm just going to rest until morning and spam the A button, and that should give us the Master Sword. Here we go. Okay, so now we're gonna go inside the Deku tree. Just gonna double check my inventory really quick to make sure I have everything I need. I don't need this bow, so Yeah, I think I'm just gonna go ahead and ditch this bow, and I'll equip that one. My weapons are right. I have the materials I need. Yeah, we're good. Instead of manually saving here, I'm just going to get the autosave from turning in spirit orbs. Spirit orbs will cause issues with the setup because they're just going to keep multiplying every time we save and reload. Okay, so now we can break our first set of slots. And you'll notice on this save, haven't picked up any cooked food. Make sure when you're going through plat, you don't pick up anything like the seared steak or the baked apple, because that will make the setup we're about to do not work. So, going to hold smuggle here. Hold one of each of all of these items. Then we're going to use the Master Sword and do this. Which, if you're familiar with IST at all, you're probably familiar with all these steps that you've seen before. This isn't particularly intended to be an IST tutorial, but yeah. So we're gonna sell everything we have here. We see I have 0 acorns, so I time the inputs right. And now when we close out of this text box, we want to grab the fairy, and we also want to pick up the Endura carrot, which it was showing me for a second, but then went away. Come on. The acorn just happened to land right on top of it, so making this tricky. Oh, I had it. There we go. Okay. So now, when I hold this, make sure you're not too close to the cooking pot, or you'll get the prompt to cook, which you do not want. I'm gonna pick up this roasted carrot, and we have 4 broken slots, so we're gonna transfer over glider, slate, Endura carrot, and 1 fairy back to this autosave. And after we load in, you're going to see the reason why you want to have DLC uninstalled with this method. Because as soon as you load in, because we've picked up the Master Sword, we're going to get these long texts that are going to tell us about coming back to Korok Forest to do the Trial of the Sword. And then even after all of that happens, you're also going to get all of the quests popping up for having DLC installed, so that's also a fun side effect here. Okay. So the first thing I'm going to do is pause so we can activate prompt entanglement. Since we didn't have the food tab discovered, we can use that as a quick way to get prompt entanglement. So once again, I'm going to sell all of these items. And from this point on, if you picked up a check item, you don't necessarily need it. But if you picked up something like an acorn, there's no issue with having it, because you can just do this, where you do 1 Endura carrot and 1 acorn, and then cook that. And that will open up our cooking menu, so we have access to these now. So what I'm going to do now, I have shields unequipped, so I don't have to worry about that. But we're about to use prompts from this bow on this carrot with prompt entanglement. But we also need to drop this bow later. And I've noticed there's a weird thing where if you use the drop prompt from a weapon and then try to drop it while it's still equipped like this, it won't appear in the overworld and you'll just have effectively deleted it. So we're just going to unequip that now. And I think first, let me just follow my script here so I don't do anything strangely out of order. Yeah, we're just gonna do the weapon modifier corruption meal first. So I'm gonna go left up. I'm gonna go left up, left stick, left, and then D-pad right. Okay, let me try to do that a little bit slower. Left up, left stick, left, right, D-pad right, left stick left, D-pad right. It's just easier to look at these inputs like in text, but just trying to say what I'm doing here. D-pad left, D-pad up, left stick left, D-pad right, left stick left, D-pad right. So all together looks like this. And now we're entangled over slot 1. If we go 1 page to the left and then go system menu and back, we now have the prompts from the Dweller's Bow, which is just 1 page to the left. And we can use that to use this drop prompt on the carrot. And if we do this 3 more times, and then press X and X again, you'll see we've gone from 1 to 4. So now that I have 4, I'm going to repeat the same inputs I did again, and this time just hold 3 of them. And then we hold 1 herb, 1 fairy, and then toss it in the cooking pot. Now we have our weapon modifier meal. So next we're going to... We only want to corrupt the bomb arrows here, and the normal arrows are going to get in the way of what we're doing next. So I'm going to drop this bow. I guess I'll show you what we're doing first. I'm using the same inputs that we just used to add more of these carrots. Same inputs. But this time we're going to use the prompt from the carrots to eat the arrows here. So even though... Actually, I actually haven't tried this. Let me try a different set of inputs real quick and see if this works. So if I look at the bow right now, yeah, you can see it still has the sparkle, so it still has full durability. I'm going to target slot 2. If I can get the inputs right. There we go, slot 2. And I'm gonna try to eat this slot that's just to the right of the bow. Yeah, okay. So it's not sparkling anymore, so that means it took a durability from the bow. So instead what I'm gonna do is drop it. And then we're gonna do the same inputs we used to put the cursor on the roasted carrots here. And then we're going to eat from this slot. Let me get the prompt back again, because I wanted to show where the cursor is here. So we're gonna eat from this square. And now if I unpause and pause again, you'll see that the arrow is gone. So now we can pick up the bow again. Actually, I should leave it dropped. Just so I don't have to drop it again in the setup in the future. So now what we're gonna do, we want to get both of these out of our inventory. And we can actually use the drop prompt from both of these to do that. So, okay, just had to do that real quick to remind myself. So, D-pad left, D-pad up, right, right, left, left stick left, D-pad right. Okay, So now we're over this slot. I'm going to take the prompt from this shield and use drop to hold the slate. I think there should be inputs to get this too. I may not know them off the top of my head, but so far I've been doing them one at a time. Let me see. Yeah, there should be inputs to do this, to get the second item, but at least for now, I'm just going to drop them one at a time. So now we have both of those out of our inventory. And the only thing left that we need to do before we reload is to get our Master Sword down to 1 durability. So normally, this has 40 durability and it takes about 50 seconds to break it if you're just constantly jump attacking the ground. But Prompt Entanglement also gives us a way to reduce it, which is why we wanted to hang on to the spear. So I'm going to start on the meal tab this time and do the same inputs that we used starting here to get our cursor on the carrots. So now we're on slot 1 of materials. We're going to page once to the left, go system menu and back, and now we have the prompts for the Boko spear. So if we page once to the right and use equip on these fairies, you'll notice when I open my quick menu, now the Master Sword is almost broken. So what I'm going to do now is equip the axe, go back to the Master Sword, and if I jump slash a couple times, now we have a broken Master Sword. So the only thing I have left to do now before I make the save where we're going to do everything is, let's see, we want to equip the axe, we want to drop the spear, the pot lid, and this other shield, and we want to hold this. Make sure to hold this before you close the menu, because if you don't, your inventory is going to be blank and you're going to have to pick stuff up again in order to hold it. So now I'm going to make sure I'm far enough away from the cooking pot so that I don't cook this. I'm going to pick up the bow while it's roasting and then pick this up. So now our inventory is in this particular order. We have the axe equipped, broken Master Sword, 1 bomb arrow, 1 fairy. We have these 3 foods. We have the Forest Dweller's bow, and the other cooked food, the Toasty Highland shroom that we just made. Also notice I misspoke earlier, or actually never mind. You do still want to have 1 bomb arrow even though we're corrupting these, because we need to get these out of our inventory when we reload in a second. But for now, this is everything as we want it. So I'm going to save. And now the steps for the first corruption. I actually have a window here in my recording that I wanted to use to show off what's about to happen. So let me bring this up. Okay, so this is our inventory as we have it right now. And when we reload this save, all we're corrupting is going to be bomb arrows and fairies on this reload. Then with the next reload, we're going to be corrupting both the roasted Endura carrot. Let me see, here we go. I need to have my cursor over here instead of on OBS. We're going to be corrupting the roasted Endura carrot and the Toasty Hylian shroom. And corrupting both of these, as well as having the 0 durability Master Sword, is what's going to allow this to work. So at this point, I guess we'll just walk through this in game, and then when I get to the right step, I'll kind of talk a little bit more about what's happening. Okay, So going back up, first corruption, I need to unequip the axe. I need to drop the bow. And then I need to pick up both shields that I dropped. I want this to be my second shield. It's not important that it be here, be in this specific order yet, but I'm just going to go ahead and do that so I don't have to reorganize them later. I'm also going to unequip this shield. And then we're going to use one fairy and eat both of these meals. And then reload. So this first reload, as I mentioned, is just to corrupt fairies and bomb arrows. So as soon as we load in, we want to save in order to do the corruption. And then once again, we want to unequip this axe, and we want to drop this bow. After we've dropped this bow, we want to do the same thing we used to eat the normal arrow earlier. We want to do that twice. So same inputs to get the cursor over the carrot. I actually needed the carrot prompt, so I didn't mean to page there. So we're going to eat one bomb arrow, unpause, pause again, and now you'll see one of the stacks is gone. And repeating the same thing. Eat again, and now they're both gone. So I'm gonna pick the bow back up. Equip the Forest Dweller shield, since we're going to use it to corrupt the Toasty Hylian shrooms in the next reload. And then get rid of one fairy. Eat both of these. And then eat one of each of these. It's not necessarily specific which of these you need to eat on this step, but it will be important in the next. So just quickly looking over my inventory to make sure I have everything as I want it. And I do. So this time after we reload, we want to shoot one bomb arrow and then save. And you'll notice our bomb arrow count was corrupted there. So we have 4,700 of those now. We also have corrupted fairies. So the reload on this step is very important. And I'll bring this window back up so I can kind of explain what's happening. So setting up reload to get these Hylian shrooms. So in this specific setup, the goal is to get the Hylian food, or the goal is to get the weapon modifier. You want to get the Toasty Hylian shrooms both corrupted and having the weapon modifier effect on it. And the only way you can do that is with one extra reload in order to get the 999 stack to load into your inventory. But if you're just looking to corrupt a single weapon, you can do this straight up in just 4 reloads. We've already done 3, so this next reload is the last one that's technically required. I'm trying to find a good way to show this in the window with the space I have. So what I'm about to do for my example is I'm about to eat all of the food that I can except for one roasted Endura carrot. And when I reload, this 999 roasted Endura carrot will not be able to load in. So what it tries to do is it tries to push its food effect onto the Master Sword. But the Master Sword, since it's broken, and the game's also trying to replace it with a broken Master Sword, it kind of, I know it's silly to phrase it this way, but it confuses the game, and it shifts all the food effects to the right. It creates a desync that pushes everything once to the right. It doesn't apply to the bow because it only applies to food effects, but the enduring food that we have here, its effect is going to get pushed to where we had the fried wild greens, and then which is our weapon modifier food, and then the weapon modifier effect is going to get pushed to the shrooms. If you were to reload on this step, if you were to leave one Hylian shroom in here, I have the editing mode turned off, hold on. Okay. If you were to leave your inventory like this instead, where you're loading in both one Hylian shroom and one Endura carrot, and then reload, it would cause this to not load in, which would try to apply its effect to the Master Sword, which would push all these food effects to the right, but then this wouldn't be able to load in because we brought over one, and it would push its effect onto the bow. So that's kind of how all of this works. It's trying to push, this one is trying to push its effect to a Master Sword that can't load in. A desync pushes everything to the right, then this can't load in and pushes its effect onto the bow. But for all Kilton metals, since we're not just corrupting one bow and two, we actually want to have this specific shroom in our inventory. So we're going to do one extra reload. Okay. So I'm going to close this window and then we'll do the steps. I have 3 axes now and I want to drop all of them. I also want to drop both bows, but we're keeping both shields. The fairies are fine. And then all of this food, except for one carrot, we're going to remove from our inventory. So now double checking before I reload, make sure everything looks good. And now when we reload, we should get the 999 stack of toasty Hylian shrooms with the weapon modifier effect on it. Pause, come over here, and there it is. So now, the main thing that we need to do, you'll notice we had enduring food here, which now has no effect and also gives no hearts. We also have this stack here, which was our weapon modifier food. And this is the stack we corrupted when we shot the arrow earlier before saving. So if I eat one of those, you'll see you have infinite enduring food. And for other categories, if you need, say, attack food here, or if you need speed food, that can also slot in here. So this setup is pretty versatile in that way. But now we want to get this stack. We want to get this stack into this position here without getting rid of our corrupted stack of enduring food. So to do that, I'm gonna drop one axe, one bow, and I'm going to eat this empty fried wild green. And double check my inventory, make sure I have everything. Actually, if I pause and unpause, it should look empty. So yeah, that's a simple way to check if specifically your inventory count is equal to 0. And you should see after this reload, because we're carrying over one carrot and also the stack of shrooms, that we now have our corrupted bow. So now we have 2 shields, we have the corrupted bow, we have an axe we can use to break Thunderblight's shield, and we also have the Broken Master Sword. We have our fairies, and we have 2 different stacks of enduring fried wild greens that are corrupted. So this one actually creates a problem. So we're going to go over here and sell this out of our inventory. And just to minimize everything down, we're going to get rid of this carrot and also get rid of this stack. We want this to be furthest to the left in our inventory, so now that we've sold that food, we can make that. or now that we've sold it, we have that. I'm gonna double check really quick, make sure my inventory looks good. Yeah, so at this point, I'm going to fast forward the recording, and I'm gonna fast forward the recording. I'm gonna go through all the blight fights and pick up the bow of light, and then we'll continue. I'll continue on with the description from there. Okay, so now that I'm at the end of the fights, important step here that I'm going to do. As soon as I shoot the arrow from the bow of light, I'm going to equip this other bow, which is what allows us to transfer the bow of light over to our save. I did make a manual save outside of Sanctum, so worth doing that, because sometimes if you land too close to Sanctum, you'll make an autosave that will just load you back into Korok Forest, so just double checking my inventory really quick. Still have both shields here. I picked up the Royal Shield because when I was doing the Calamity fight, he broke my Forest Dwellers, and because it makes your inventory count equal to 0, you can't just equip your other shield, so grabbed a second one, which took me a little bit to find. Double checking everything, have both of these. Have the fairy. Have 2 shields, bow, and with this setup, this is also going to cover this slot here, so we're also going to be duping this bow, which is a nice little extra. Yeah, that's it. So as soon as we fire it, equip a different bow. Then we're gonna skip through all these cutscenes and credits, and then reload our Sanctum save. Okay, so reloading. It autosaved too, so yeah. We'll reload the autosave since that has our game clear on it. There's only a couple of simple steps you'll have to do when you reload into this save. Now we have our bow of light here. We also have 2 forest dweller bows. Press the Y button, and this will move the bow of light to be the furthest one to the right. And you'll have 4 shields in here. You'll notice one of them got the modifiers on it. Just want to drop all of these, and then save. And then pick up one of these. I'm gonna pick up our Forest Dweller's shield here since it has the modifiers on it. They don't really help with anything, but just because it's unique. But then we want to reload this save. And now we have Corrupted Bow of Light. We also have another one. I think I normally pick up 2 shields here. I only have it as 1 in the sim. Oh yeah, I see what I did. So if you pick up 2, you'll just have the 1. But yeah, 2 bows of lights and 3 of these. So yeah, now we're all set for an all kill to metals run. Couple of things worth mentioning before I close out here. We did corrupt this 4 times, so that's nice. If you're doing like anything that involves shrines or something or Koroks, you can just easily tab over and then they're all right here. The things worth mentioning, I said earlier you could use this for something like all shrines or even all Lionels. I think all Lionels it would probably be especially good. For all shrines, you could replace the enduring food with speed food. But I've also come up with a setup that just requires 1 more broken slot where you can have both. It complicates getting something like the Bow of Light or corrupting anything other than like a single bow. But I think in most use cases you wouldn't really need that anyway. For a category like all shrines or something else that's not all kill to metals. So I do have a setup that can do that. I'll have all this linked down in the description as well. As far as alternatives, as mentioned, this bow is a shorter range bow, so it doesn't have the long distance that you'd have with like Falcon Bow or the Phrenic Bow or something like that. But the detour to get a Phrenic Bow is actually not that large. I can't show the full map from here. But instead of going to Satori Mountain to get this bow and get Endura Carrots, you could also just detour to Kakariko and just get the bow and Endura Carrots there. It is a little bit slower, but it is an option if it's deemed that a bow with that kind of range is necessary. There's also some options for different food. There's some options for different food that you can get here in Castle. See if I can go over there real quick. To the dining hall. I still haven't experimented a lot with recipes or seen what we can use entirely. But I know there's at least one setup that uses roasted bird leg, which you can get in here. And this is also a more direct path towards Korok Forest. I actually don't know where this roasted bird leg is. There it is. Yeah, you could roast this, use it with a couple of fairies and another ingredient I don't remember, and then go over to Korok Forest. I think the main issue with that is just the difference in height. Because you'll see now we're fairly low. As soon as I can get some height, you can see. Well, now right at the end, my wind bombs don't want to work. Let me try this way. So yeah, it's probably not that bad. You would want to probably do at least a couple wind bombs and then find a BLSS spot. Yeah, you would probably still need a third one to get to the top of the Deku tree though, so even though this is a more direct path from Plateau, there are still some issues, but yeah. And that's all that's worth mentioning for now. I'm going to link this simulator file in the description. I'll also link the one that corrupts both speed food and enduring food that uses 9 broken slots instead of 8. And yeah, if there's any updates as far as the setup, I will link that in the description as well. But I think this setup, I'm pretty happy with it. 4 reloads to get a corrupted weapon, or I think it's 7 total if you want to get the Bow of Light. I think it's a pretty good improvement over what we were doing before. Yeah, that's all for now. Thanks, everybody.